I paid for my sister's education while working 2 jobs, only to have her call me a failure at a family dinner. She was shocked when I immediately stopped paying her rent and told everyone why she could no longer afford her lifestyle. The entire family was celebrating my younger sister, Lauren, getting into her dream college. My parents were beaming. Lauren was basking in the glow of her supposed genius, and I was the silent ghost in the corner. The financial engine behind a dream that wasn't even mine. The drive home was quiet. There were no tears. No angry calls to friends. Just a chilling, profound silence in my beat-up sedan. The fury had burned away on the highway, leaving behind something cold, hard, and clear. Back in my small apartment, I didn't even bother turning on the main lights. I sat before the glow of my laptop screen. My movements methodical, like a surgeon preparing for an operation. First, I logged into my bank account. I found the recurring $2,000 transfer labeled Lauren Rent. With a single, satisfying click, it was canceled. Next, the $500 weekly transfer for her expenses. Canceled. The financial umbilical cord was severed in less than 30 seconds. Then came the masterstroke. I opened our family group chat, a place usually filled with my mom's emojis and Lauren's selfies. My fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard, crafting a message devoid of emotion, a simple statement of fact. To all, I wrote, "Since I am, as Lauren so eloquently put it at dinner, a faillure. I can no longer in good conscience pretend to be a success. A failure, by definition, cannot afford to support someone else's lifestyle. Therefore, effective immediately, all financial support for Lauren has been terminated. She will need to figure it out herself. I wish her the best." I hit send. Then, for the first time in years, I turned my phone to silent and placed it face down on the counter. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was full of peace. It hadn't started this way. It began with a slow, creeping pressure. The kind that feels like love but is actually a cage being built around you. When Lauren got accepted to the university, the expectation fell on me. My parents sat me down, talking about how family takes care of family. A phrase that really meant Monica takes care of Lauren. Unlike Lauren, I didn't have a degree. I had grease under my fingernails that never truly washed out and a business I had built from the ground up. Monica's auto repair wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I'd poured my blood, sweat, and every last dollar into it, working 16-hour days to make it profitable. My dream wasn't a fancy diploma. It was a small 2-bedroom house with a yard and a massive garage where I could work on my own project cars. I'd even saved up the down payment, a tidy sum that I watched drain away to pay for Lauren's first semester tuition and housing deposit. My life became a study in contrasts. While I was skipping meals to make payroll, Lauren's Instagram was a highlight reel of a life I was funding but couldn't afford. There she was, laughing with sorority sisters at a restaurant where the appetizers cost more than my weekly grocery budget. There she was, showing off a new designer handbag. Hashtagged, number blessed and number college life. Meanwhile, my life was a blur of engine oil, ringing phones, and microwave dinners eaten while standing over the sink in my tiny apartment above the garage. The requests escalated slowly, insidiously. First, it was just textbooks. Then it was her monthly $2,000 rent. Then the $500 weekly allowance. Soon, I was funding spring break trips to Cancun and weekend getaways I only saw in her filtered, perfect photos. Every time I thought about saying no, my mother would call, her voice laced with guilt, reminding me how much Lauren was counting on me, how I was investing in her future. But it wasn't an investment. It was a sacrifice. I was sacrificing my future so she could have a present. And the failure comment was simply the receipt for my terrible bargain. A few days later, the bell above my garage door chimed. Lauren stormed in. A splash of pastel entitlement in my world of steel and oil. She looked completely out of place. Her pristine white sneakers already smudged with the grime of the shop floor. "You need to fix this," she demanded, her voice echoing in the large space. She didn't even say hello. I was halfway under the hood of a classic Mustang, and I didn't bother to look up. "Engine or transmission?" I asked. My voice muffled. "Be specific." "Not the car." "Monica, this us. You cut me off." I finally pulled my head out and wiped my greasy hands on a red rag, meeting her furious gaze. "There's nothing to fix." "Lauren," I said calmly, "the arrangement is over." That's when the waterworks started. Big, theatrical tears rolled down her cheeks. It was a performance I'd seen a dozen times. And for the first time, it had no effect on me. "Save the tears," I said, my voice flat. "They won't work here. This is a place of business, not a theater." Her expression shifted from feigned sadness to pure indignation. "I'm going to be homeless. They're going to evict me. Is that what you want?" "What I want is to finish this timing belt replacement before 5. I replied, turning back to the engine. "What happens with your apartment is a you problem, not a me problem." She was speechless. No one, least of all me, had ever spoken to her like that. I walked over to the large bay door and gestured outside. "You're disrupting my work and trespassing in an employees-only area," I said, my tone as professional as if I were speaking to a stranger. "Please leave." She stalked towards the exit, her face a mask of disbelief and rage. As she stepped out into the sunlight, she turned and pointed a finger at me, her voice a low hiss. "You will regret this." I didn't have to wait long to find out what she meant. The attack began online, a week after her visit. I woke up to a flurry of notifications. My business pages on Google and Yelp, once boasting a proud 4.9-star rating, had been carpet-bombed with 1-star reviews overnight. They were vicious and specific, crafted to hit where it hurt the most. "The owner, Monica, is a thief who overcharges for basic repairs. Took my car for an oil change and she tried to sell me $1,000 of work I didn't need. Wrote a user named Jessica M. Another, from Chloe P. Claimed shoddy work on my brakes. Almost caused an accident with my kids in the car. Avoid this place at all costs." The names were generic, but I knew. Jessica and Chloe were 2 of Lauren's best friends from her sorority. The impact was immediate and devastating. The phone, which usually rang off the hook in the mornings, was silent. Mrs. Gable, a loyal customer for over 10 years, called to cancel her appointment, mumbling a weak excuse about reading something worrying online. I ran the numbers at the end of the day. Bookings had dropped by 40%. By the end of the week, profits were cut in half. Lauren wasn't just trying to hurt me. She was trying to destroy the one thing I had built for myself. But panic was a luxury I couldn't afford. My grief quickly hardened into cold, methodical resolve. I spent that night not ranting, not crying, but building a case. I took high-resolution screenshots of every single fake review. I documented the usernames and, with a little social media digging, linked each fake profile back to one of Lauren's known associates. I opened a spreadsheet and began meticulously logging every canceled appointment and calculating the precise financial loss. Lauren thought she was fighting a family squabble. She had no idea I was preparing for war. The next escalation wasn't just malicious, it was a felony. I was balancing my books late one night when an email pinged on my laptop. It was a fraud alert from my bank for a charge I didn't recognize. The amount made my stomach clench. $7,000. The vendor was Semester at Sea. My heart hammered against my ribs as I dialed the bank's fraud department. The agent on the other end was calm and professional as she delivered the news that made the world tilt on its axis. "Ma'am, that charge was made on a new credit card issued in your name 2 weeks ago. A new card? I hadn't opened a new card in 5 years. Can you tell me the balance on that card? I asked. My voice dangerously quiet. I heard the clacking of her keyboard. Yes, she said. The card has a $10,000 limit, and it is currently maxed out. She read me the list of charges. The $7,000 deposit for the trip to Spain, $900 at a designer clothing boutique, $500 for a set of high-end luggage. It was Lauren's entire study abroad fantasy, purchased with a line of credit she had opened by stealing my identity. The line between family and enemy evaporated. This wasn't a desperate cry for help. It was a calculated, criminal act of entitlement. My hands, surprisingly, didn't shake. My breathing was even. The path forward was no longer complicated by emotion. It was a straight line toward justice. I didn't call my parents. I didn't text Lauren. I calmly printed the fraudulent credit card statement, put it in a folder with the screenshots of the fake reviews and the spreadsheet of my financial losses, and dialed the non-emergency police line. I need to file a report, I said, my voice steady as steel, for identity theft and financial fraud. I summoned them to the garage the next evening for what I called a final conversation. My parents and Lauren arrived together, a united front of anxiety and indignation. They tried to herd me into my small, private office, but I shook my head. No, we'll talk out here, I said, gesturing to the customer waiting area. I wanted this to happen on my professional turf, under the fluorescent lights and the weight of the business she had tried to ruin. My mother started, her voice pleading. Monica, honey, we know you're upset, but you can't do this to your sister. We're family. I ignored her completely and placed a manila folder on the front counter between us. I slid out the first stack of papers and spread them out. They were the printouts of the one-star reviews. This, I began, my voice clear and loud, is a targeted, libelous smear campaign designed to destroy my business. I've calculated the damages so far at over $5,000 in lost revenue. Lauren scoffed, folding her arms. You can't prove I did that. You're right, I said, meeting her gaze. It's hard to prove, but this. I reached back into the folder and slid out the second document, the $10,000 credit card statement in my name, with all the fraudulent charges highlighted. Is much easier to prove. My father snatched the paper. His face went ashen as he read it. My mother looked over his shoulder, her hand flying to her mouth. Lauren just stared, her mask of defiance finally cracking to reveal the terrified child underneath. We'll pay you back, Monica, my mother stammered, tears welling in her eyes. Whatever it costs. Just please, don't go to the police. I let a cold smile touch my lips. It's too late for that. I already did. I filed a full report for identity theft and wire fraud this morning. An investigator is being assigned to my case. He was very interested in all this evidence. The room erupted in panic. They begged. They cried. They accused. I let them exhaust themselves before holding up a single hand, silencing them instantly. I am going to offer you a deal, I said, my voice cutting through their sobs. A one-time only offer. I will call the investigator and inform him that we have resolved the matter internally, but only if Lauren does the following. Without negotiation. 1. She will post a public confession on all her social media accounts, admitting she fabricated the reviews and apologizing. 2. She will get a job, 2 jobs if necessary, and pay me back the full $10,000, plus the $5,000 in damages. 3. After the debt is paid, she, and both of you, will be permanently out of my life. I slid a pre-written confession and a ballpoint pen across the counter. Those are my terms, I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. You can take the deal, or you can take your chances with a judge. The choice is yours. They took the deal. Lauren, humiliated and broken, posted the confession that evening. Her social media world, built on a curated image of effortless success, imploded spectacularly. Friends vanished. The sorority distanced itself. Her perfect life was revealed for the fraud. It was. The consequences were real and immediate. Lauren was forced to drop out of her dream college. She now works 2 jobs, one as a waitress at a diner and the other stocking shelves at a grocery store to make the court-mandated restitution payments to me. My parents, having drained their savings to hire a lawyer, treat me with a terrified silence. The only communication I get is a sterile bank notification once a month confirming Lauren's payment. Our family didn't just break. It dissolved into a transactional arrangement defined by her debt. As for me, my life began. The garage, bolstered by a wave of community support after Lauren's public confession went viral locally, became more successful than ever. Loyal customers returned, and new ones came, drawn by the story of the business owner who refused to be bullied. A year later, I sold the thriving business for a profit that made my eyes water. With that money, I finally bought my dream. It wasn't the small starter home I'd once hoped for. It was a beautiful 2-bedroom house on a quiet street, with a sprawling green yard and a massive, detached, 3-car garage, my own personal workshop. It was everything I had ever sacrificed, given back to me tenfold. Some nights, I sit on my back porch, listening to the crickets, and I feel a sense of profound, unshakable peace. The constant anxiety that hummed under the surface of my life for years is gone, replaced by a quiet confidence. I severed a toxic limb to save myself, and I have never once regretted it. My family had made their bed of chaos, and they could lie in it. I, on the other hand, was sleeping better than ever. Have you ever had to make a hard choice to cut off a family member to protect your own peace and future? Share your story in the comments below.